Hello again, everybody. It's B38 football in South Korea. This is episode 28. Bad news. This is a K-League 1 preview. It's the last K-League 1 preview until July, the weekend of July the 4th, because the World Cup is coming up and K-League 1 is taking an extended break. I'm Andrew. Luke is here to look over the last round of the fixtures before the World Cup break. Hi, Luke.
Hello, how are you doing?
Yeah, good. Are you going to miss it?
I am because there's no K League football. There's no Barnsley football either, so I'm going to literally have nothing to watch. Also, A League, Aussie football's finishing. I mean, there's a bit of K2 for a while, right?
Just for a bit until early June, yeah. And then, basically, yeah, I think from like the first weekend in June until the first weekend in July, there's no professional football. There'll obviously be a bit of K3, K4, WK League, but yeah, no K League 1, no K League 2. In some sense, I'm kind of looking forward to it, but I know that by that first weekend when K League 1 is gone, I'd be like, oh,
What do I do?
damn it, I really wish there was a game to go this weekend. So yeah. And especially because the World Cup games are going to be on at an awful time. Mostly for us over here too.
Yeah, the England ones, I think they're 4 a.m. and 6 a.m. What time are Ireland playing?
We're playing South Korea and Guadalajara at 25 o'clock on some Tuesday afternoon. Yeah, that's probably. Well, we're boycotting the World Cup. Like, we're taking the moral high ground here because of Trump's illegal invasions and wars in different parts of the world. It's a very noble cause.
Yeah, I agree.
Anyway, we will have content for our dear listeners and viewers. We will have content throughout the World Cup. We haven't fully decided what we're going to do yet, but we'll definitely have some content up, hopefully, probably every week. So our website is definitely up and running now from the last time we talked to you, below the 38korea.com. I'll leave a link to that as ever in the description to this video. I said this is the last round of fixtures. We won't be back to you talking about K-League 1 football until the weekend of July the 4th. Now, clubs are presumably going to approach this in a different way, Luke. I was talking to some people in Anyang yesterday. They're basically looking at this as a mini preseason. Some players and staff will get 10 days off, which is pretty nice. And then they'll stay at home and train and then move to Bowen as a group. I'd imagine every K-League 1 team club is doing something really, really similar because there's obviously not going to be too many players from this league are going to be involved in the World Cup. It'd be nice if we were able to get in touch with one of the clubs about talking to one of the players as the World Cup break goes along. But on our website anyway, you'll see an interview with Han Gadam that went up yesterday. You'll see ground guides that predominantly Luke and I have written so far. There's previews of certain rounds. And then on our YouTube account, Luke put up a video from his trip to Kimcheon last weekend. So we're doing our best to keep it up and running. So please have a look at that. There was a full round of fixtures midweek in K-League 1, again, because of the World Cup break that's about to take place. 3 games on Tuesday, all at 7:30 p.m. 3 games on Wednesday, all at 7:30 p.m. What happened on Tuesday?
Okay, so just briefly, it was Gangwon 2, Daejeon 0. Gwangju lost by a single goal to Seoul. It was Gwangju 0, Seoul 1. And Incheon lost 1-0 at home to Pohang. Wednesday?
A record-breaking game in Anyang. We'll talk about that later because I was at it. Anyang 2, Kimcheon 2. There was a goal scored after 10 seconds, which has never happened before. Another record nearly fell in Bucheon, but Rodrigo Bassani's red card was about 40 seconds after the current record holder. He was sent off after about 1 minute 40 seconds against Jeonbuk, and amazingly Bucheon held on for a 0-0 draw. And then I had anticipated Jeju going to Munsu and winning, but actually they lost the game 2-1. So Ulsan continued their surprisingly good run of form. At a good time with the World Cup coming up, or they might even tell you that it's at a bad time because they seem to have stolen the march and everybody else, and maybe if there wasn't a break, they might find themselves top as the summer goes along. But I was at Anyang yesterday. I was supposed to go to Bucheon, changed my mind, went to Anyang. There was a strangely flat atmosphere leading up to the game. There's a walk that I make every time I go up to the stadium, and it brings you to that gate behind the stand where the main supporters group goes, and it's always theming with people. There's throngs of people everywhere. The store is quite busy. That entrance, do they call it Our Nation? That entrance gate is always really, really busy. It was noticeably flat yesterday. You could tell there wasn't going to be a lot of people at this match. I think the final attendance about 4,500. There were 47 or 48. I can't remember what the number was from Gimcheon. So like, oh my God, what's this going to be like? I mean, are the players going to be feeling the same way? There's obviously a lot of rotation from both sides. They have the last games coming up this weekend. And then after 10 seconds, Trey Gyeongju scores, and you're thinking, wow, well, I'm so glad I came to this game. That's something I might never see again. And then for the next 44 minutes and 50 seconds, nothing happened in the first half. I think all the players were completely shell-shocked by what had just happened. It was a set-piece goal in the sense that like it was obviously planned what they were trying to do, but as they said themselves, they didn't actually expect to score. But the plan was to tip off, give it to Kim Da-sol, the goalkeeper, and he was going to welly it basically to the edge of the Gimcheon box. You know, you're kind of looking for a knockdown or maybe a shot on target, win a corner. Then again, you'd be expecting them to go 1-0 up after 10 seconds. Gimcheon were pretty poor. But they turned it around dramatically in the second half. Kim Joo-chan, an on-loan Suwon player, scored a peach of a goal to make it 2-1. And they were in control. But kind of fluky enough goal from Ayrton brought Anyang level with about 12 minutes to go. And then you're thinking they have all the momentum. They'll probably go on and win this game. But they didn't. And actually the last 12 minutes just kind of petered out into nothing. Ayrton's an interesting enough character because he scored 5 goals for the season now. Mota, I think, scored 14 last year. And like Ayrton is by no means irregular. And he didn't start the season with the club. He's only sort of come into game time recently. Like, I don't want to call him a headless chicken necessarily, but he's got a lot of pace and he is a danger man. But that was one of the first times I'd seen him starting a game and the end product is not there. A lot of times he just runs into blind alleys or his crosses just hit the first man available. But he's popping up with goals. He's got 5 for the season now. They're all from open play. And without Ayrton, and probably you'd say without Matthias Oliveira as well, they'd be in big, big trouble this season. But Anyang just kind of holding in there. Both sides have now drawn 8 for the season as well, which is just, I mean, that's 14 rounds in and they've drawn 8 of their 14 games. It's tough going. It's a slog.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting to the stage where you'd actually take winning a game and losing a game and then going on a run of draws. It's draws that often get you relegated because everybody loses games. But you've got to win games as well to pick up 3 points here and there, and you've got to win games to deprive other teams of points. But yeah, no, I don't think Anyang will be in any trouble this year. I mean, I've got them to finish mid-table, maybe even get into the Champions League conversation towards the second half of the season. We'll see. They need goals, but I think there are much worse teams out there, and Anyang do have good performances in them. Gimcheon, it's hard to know what to make of them. They went to Bucheon and won. They went to Seoul and won, and then they got hammered by Incheon last weekend. It's I don't know. We've said this all season. We don't know how motivated they are. We don't know how much effort they're putting in, given that they're going down anyway. But we'll see.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I just think I was going to say just last thing, because we're looking at the table there, and Incheon, despite the loss, that they maintain their spot in the top 6, helped obviously by results very much going their way then on Wednesday. But like that Anyang record of played 14, won 3, drawn 8, lost 3. I mean, the lost 3 is the joint fewest amount in the entire league. The 17 goals that they've scored, just apart from the top 3, everybody else is kind of hovering around the same level. Just, this inability to go on and win games is crucial. But like you're saying there as well about the draws, like just knowing that Gimcheon have nothing to play for is just so wild in this league as well. But then it almost surprised me that they've drawn so many matches, because you're kind of thinking, well, why not just go for the juggler in every single match? Like, what is there to lose at this point?
It'd be brilliant if they actually lined up with 5 strikers. Just decided to goals count double almost in this division, so let's just have 5 people up front and see what happens. It doesn't change anything. I mean, it would be a breath of fresh air for the league, I think. And I don't know that teams would know how to defend against it, but yeah. Interestingly as well, that 10-second goal that now becomes the quickest goal in K-League actually knocked Park Seung-ho off the top, because it was his goal against Bucheon early last season that was the fastest goal in K-League. So his record stood for about a year.
Yeah. It's a very strange thing when you see, because like a lot of people show up late.
Yeah.
It's a work day, so the game's at 7:30. Some people are coming from work. They're coming from whatever else they're doing. They're finishing their beers. They're having a cigarette. They might even be in the stadium, but they're not even in their seat at that point. And then to hear that noise must be such a strange feeling, to hear that noise. That, oh my God, we've actually missed a goal. And imagine that was the only goal of the game.
Yeah, and I mean,
you showed up after 15 seconds.
I've always said, I think that like turning up late to a game, unless you have a proper excuse, if you've just been like busy finishing your fag or finishing your beer or whatever outside and then leaving early, that you never know what's going to happen. It's both things are inexcusable. You stay for the whole game, get there early, get in your seat. And also, when you are early to a game and you're sitting down and everybody's coming in late and you're having to stand up and let them past you, it's so annoying. But yeah.
Yeah. I agree.
Anyway. So, what's happening this weekend?
So, as we said, this is the last weekend. This is round 15 of the K-League 1 season, until they go on a mini pre-season. The weekend starts with a game that I'd imagine when the fixtures were released sometime in January, and we knew there was going to be a break for the World Cup, the 4:30 kickoff at the Daejeon World Cup Stadium between Daejeon and Seoul, it probably stood out more than any other game this weekend as the fixture of the weekend. It hasn't really worked out that way, primarily because Daejeon have been struggling pretty much all season, whereas Seoul started like a house on fire. They then went on a weird run of just 1 point from 3. They went to Gwangju during the week. They won 1-0. It was the most comprehensive 1-0 win you'll ever see. They completely battered Gwangju in the end. In terms of like possession, corners, shots, but they only managed, of their 16 shots in that game, only 4 of them were on target. And it was left up to Ruiz, a winter signing from Songnam, to get them the 3 points. Daejeon were decent enough. It's a very competitive game against Gangwon, who were good this season. We've talked about Gangwon a lot in the podcast in recent weeks, but they were really sucker punch. 2 late goals. Gangwon win 2-0, and a fixture which looked like it could have been a sort of a second versus third, or maybe first versus third type of a game when the fixtures were first released. Now is in a below mid-table versus a struggling first place team.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so after that game, Saturday, 7 o'clock, we have Incheon versus Gwangju. Gwangju have only won once all season, and it was Incheon that they beat in the second round. So Incheon will be looking for some revenge there, I think. Incheon recently have been on a good run. They've won 2, they've drawn 1, and they've lost 2 of their last 5 games. Gwangju had 8 consecutive defeats, but they put a stop to that last weekend when they drew 0-0 with Gangwon. Yes, they lost in midweek, but it was only 1-0. So even if it was a 1-0 battering, it was only 1-0. You've got to take some heart from that. They have been improving somewhat. They're not conceding as many goals in the last couple of games as they have been doing. So maybe there's a bit of hope there. I think they'll try and get back together and sort of come out in the second half of the season better than they've done in the first half. They'll be able to sign players, register players again after the summer break. So Gwangju might not be as dead and buried as we thought a few weeks ago. They kick off 7 o'clock Saturday at Incheon.
Yeah, then we move on to the Sunday games, and after Seoul getting the peach of a fixture in Jeju the previous weekend with a 2 o'clock start, Anyang have a 4:30 kickoff in Jeju on Sunday. It's not a great time if you're looking to make a late flight back to Seoul for work on Monday morning. Jeju were just one of those sides, like they're 7th at the moment. It looked like they'd begun to turn a corner. They'd won a couple of games in a row. They'd moved themselves into the top half of the table, and then since then they've just lost 2 games in a row again. So just a continuation of what we've seen in this league all season. Clubs winning a couple of games, and then they lose a couple of games. In saying that, I do think this is probably a bridge too far for Anyang. They're carrying far too many injuries at the moment, but what is already a really small squad. And I think a little bit like Gwangju, they're probably the team that needs this break the most. And as before, they're not getting a lot from their strikers. And reading between the lines on Wednesday, I get the feeling there are going to be some changes in their forward division over the summer. They will be looking to move some players out and bring some players in. If Anyang can come out of this with a draw, I think it'd be a great result. But I'd be surprised if Jeju don't pick up 3 points on Sunday at 4:30.
Yeah, so another Sunday 4:40 apparently. There's a 4:40 game on Sunday. Jeonbuk.
Must be for the concerts. Must be for the concert.
Must be because of the concert. So Jeonbuk versus Gimcheon is sold out, and we were trying to work out why everybody was so interested in this fixture. It turns out they're not, and it's that there's a K-pop concert afterwards. So Jeonbuk are 6 points behind Seoul at the top of the league, and so they really need to get a win over Gimcheon if they want to keep challenging. Gimcheon have had some good wins against Bucheon and Seoul, as we've talked about. They lost last weekend to Incheon. And the game against Anyang, either team could have won it realistically, but it'd be good for Gimcheon to finish like this part of the season with a win. You've got to expect Jeonbuk probably will win this game, but as ever, we hope that they don't.
Yes, I agree. It's going to be hard to see them. It's going to be hard to see them not achieving that. Obviously, with the opponents. Although I was reliably told by a Gimcheon fan who we've now both met in the last couple of weeks or so that they're far better away from home than they are at home.
Yeah.
So perhaps there is something in that. And it would be quite interesting because they did. And in fairness as well, Gimcheon did go to FC Seoul and win earlier on this month. So they have shown up when we didn't expect them to do so. Another game then on Sunday, I'll be added, is Pohang Steelers visiting Bucheon FC 1995. Let's just talk about Pohang first because it's a little bit easier. They don't score any goals. Any goals they score tends to come from J, and it's normally from the penalty spot. For him, they won 1-0 in Incheon on Tuesday night. They had a good 2-0 win in Daejeon before then, a good draw in Gangwon, and a last-minute winner in the Donghae and derby against Ulsan. It's been a really good May for Pohang Steelers, and as a result of that, they've kind of shot themselves back up into the contention, certainly for top four. But if they can maintain this form, which I don't think they'll be able to just because of their squad size, you couldn't really rule them out of a championship run just yet. They're playing Bucheon, who are not having, or having probably the season we expected them to have. They're struggling, but they were under immense pressure on Wednesday night when their talisman and captain, Basani, was sent off after about 1 minute and 40 seconds against Jeonbuk. They somehow managed to keep Jeonbuk out. It ended 0-0. Jeonbuk had an enormous amount of possession, shots on goal, shots on target. It was one of the most surprising results of the season. They're calling Kim Hyun-gun, the goalkeeper, God at the moment. I had a look at the ratings on the K-League website before we came on. He got a rating of 7.6 out of 10. I just think it's just, sometimes you look at those ratings and a guy comes off the bench at halftime, scores the only goal of the game, gets a rating of 8.2.
Yeah.
And the goalkeeper, like a one-man stand against the best team in Korean football over the last year or so, with genuine internationals up against him and some notable goal scorers in this league, gets a 7.6. Not that he really cares. He had a couple of great saves in that game. So I think it's interesting from a Bucheon point of view. Like, I expected nothing from this game, but now that they've had that incredible late stand against Jeonbuk, maybe there is a little bit of fight in their season.
It would be nice. So rounding it off, the final game of the weekend and the final game of this part of K-League 1 will be Gangwon versus Ulsan. Now, Ulsan are second and they're only 3 points behind Seoul. So if they get a good result here and if Seoul lose against Daejeon, Ulsan could go into the break top of the league, which I don't think any of us would have predicted 5 or 6 weeks back. But that's just how the league goes. Ulsan have won their last 3 games, they won this reverse fixture earlier in the season, 3-1 against Gangwon, and that was on the opening day. Gangwon at home will be looking for some revenge. Ulsan will be looking to finish this part of the season on a high, potentially top of the league.
Yeah, that looks like it's probably the game of the weekend. It's a pity it's at 7 o'clock on a Sunday for absolutely everybody concerned. And Gangwon, good team. Out of nowhere, not too many stars in that team. A couple of good strikers banging in goals this season, and Ulsan are probably Ulsan with Pohang the most informed sides in the league. We're not going to that game though. We're not going to be at the game of the weekend. Where are you going?
I'm going to watch Incheon versus Gwangju, hoping for a bit of revenge. It's a shame that it's in the dead spot. Saturday night, 7 p.m. Most people will probably be busy. I'm not sure how big the crowd's going to be. Apparently it's going to be really hot during the day as well. Going to be up in maybe even 30. So we'll have to get the sun cream out. But yeah, there's not going to be a lot of away fans either. So hopefully the game is better than people anticipate. We can actually get another win, go into the break with some positivity.
It's a pity you're not playing Guangzhou 2 weeks ago at home, because there was obviously that weird spell where I think they conceded 29 goals in 8 matches, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But they've kept their defense pretty tight in the last, 180 minutes of football. They've conceded once in the last 180 minutes of football. That was the one goal by Ruiz during the week. Otherwise, you might have been looking at a bit of a goal flurry at Sungwi.
That said, Magosa's probably not going to be playing again. I mean, he missed the last 2 games. He's injured. Itai's out injured. It's not looking good for Jung Won-jin, who had just come back from an injury, and he got a knock in midweek. So yeah, I think Incheon are going to need this break to get everybody fit and healthy again. We've had quite a few injuries already. So, I mean, as we've said, like Yoon Jong-hwan talked about how difficult it's been to play 5 games in 14 days and the toll that it's taking on the players. So yeah, I mean, I'll take a 1-0 win. I'll take a 1-0 win this weekend. Where are you going?
Bucheon, first time this season. Followed them quite a bit last year during their unexpected playoff run. Was there the night they got promoted. I was there at that famous game against Suwon FC that was snowed out. The players came out onto the pitch. They shook hands and the referee was like, "Nah, let's get out of here." And they played. And 24 hours later, and then that pushed everything back by a day. And because I was in Jeju watching the Blue Wings getting spanked by Jeju, the rescheduled fixture meant I was able to go to the second leg, and it was probably one of the best performances I've ever seen by a player in Korea. That was Basani's. Unfortunately, he's not going to be available for this game on Sunday night at 7 o'clock because he is going to be suspended. I'll be doing media at this game for the first time this year as well. Bucheon are always a very accommodating club. It helps that they got guys who speak English for our website. So hoping to get a word with Kazu or Shin Jae-won from Bucheon. I've spoken to both of those guys before. And then there's obviously Iho Jae, grew up in New Zealand, playing for Pohang Steelers. Did you ever see, I presume you have seen, it's been a while perhaps since you've seen Saving Private Ryan, that 88-minute defensive stand. It just reminded me of the final battle in Saving Private Ryan when Captain Miller and his boys were defending that bridge, and I don't know if it's a real town, but Ramel, they're defending that town, and that's what the Bucheon defensive effort was like against Jeonbuk. So if they're able to bring a little bit of that to the game against Pohang on Sunday, it could be good. But Pohang don't score a lot of goals, and Bucheon don't score a lot of goals. This could be the dreaded 0-0, but I think Bucheon would take that.
Yeah, I mean, Bucheon, I don't know, they play well. They did well the time that I saw them this year against Incheon. They came back from 2 down. Incheon were coast in the first 30 minutes, and it looked like we were going to hit 3 or 4. But they came back and they worked hard and they got into it. And they do definitely have, even if they don't have necessarily the skill and the ability, they do have the fight and the passion. Pohang have been playing well, but they don't have a lot of goals in them. If you can keep Iho Jae quiet and not give away any stupid penalties, there's a chance. There's a chance. It'll be good.
Would that be your pick of the weekend games?
No,
I'm going to say it's probably not.
I still think Daejeon Seoul. I still think for how these teams both can play, but also for how they have played, it's either going to be an absolute barnstormer or it's going to be a calamity, and there's going to be lots of fouls and like goals due to lack of defensive concentration, possibly some red cards. Who knows? That's the thing. That's the reason I picked it. It's so hard to predict what these two teams are going to do and who's going to turn up, because on their day they're both very good teams, but they've not been having many good days recently. So it could go one of about 3 or 4 different ways. But I think it'll be a banger.
Yeah, I'm gonna go for Gangwon against Ulsan. It's like there's no way I would have predicted this game as being the better game of the weekend. I think it's not a great. It's just you can't decide this stuff in January when the fixtures come out. But there isn't really that barnstormer of a fixture to kind of close out the first part of the season that maybe they were looking for. For example, if Seoul happened to be playing against Ulsan or Jeonbuk, or Jeonbuk versus Ulsan, something like that. But if results go their way, it probably won't. But if results go their way, then Gangwon could be third going into the World Cup, which would just be a monumental effort for a club of that size. Obviously, conversely, though, Ulsan, they need a big win in Gangneung, which is probably unlikely, but they could certainly be level on points with Seoul, perhaps still in second spot when the World Cup comes around. So there is plenty to play for there. And if Gangwon can somehow turn Ulsan over, and I wouldn't put it beyond them to be able to do so, again, we're not going to talk about them as league potential champions, but they'd obviously be a very annoying team to play for the rest of the season, and they could be one of those teams that just ends up deciding who wins the championship without even winning it themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot in this game as well, because if Gangwon get a good result, they could move up in the table. We've said Ulsan could go top with a big win, or they could go joint equal with Seoul, and like Seoul were 10 points ahead, 8 points ahead a few weeks ago. So it does show that things can change, and we're not even halfway through the season. It's only round 15. Like, we've got 38 rounds of this. It's going to be exciting, then it's going to be very frustrating. But yeah, we'll be there for it.
Enjoy Gwangju.
Well, yeah,
the home game.
Yeah, thanks. We've got people wanting to meet for pre-drinks at 1 p.m. because the weather's going to be good. I don't think I'll be there that early.
1 p.m. for 7 o'clock start. That's going to be a long day. Yeah, I saw the weather before I came in. It said it was going to be a high of 33 on Saturday. So yeah, not ideal, but at least by the time the game kicks off, it might have cooled down a bit. Yeah, well, that's it. We will be back next week to review what is going to take place this weekend in K-League 1. But in terms of a preview, unfortunately, that is it. We will see you again for previews in early July after Korea's World Cup adventure has come to an end. But we will be back for the weekend that was next Monday to wrap up what is hopefully going to be a great weekend to close out the first part of the season. Thanks.